Thank you everyone for joining us today on this important topic. Digital dentures has certainly been a hot topic, and I'll go through that, why they're hot and what's happening. But what's happening is a lot of times I get a lot of questions as to what is digital dentures, which created this concept of demystifying digital dentures. So through this presentation, I'll talk about the different access points or opportunities rather, to be able to develop it with a laboratory with digital dentures, and what are some of the options and which ways you can go, whether it's milling, printing, as well as we'll discuss design and ThreeShape of what is the best way to get the greatest output. So thank you again for joining us. I hope everybody is well, healthy, and safe, and reopening in some capacity soon or have already opened. So happy you're with us. So demystifying digital dentures. What is digital dentures? First I have to start with technology, which is where technology has taken us. And certainly during this time of the pandemic, we're witnessing where technology can absolutely help us, helps us connect, help us grow, help us learn, educates us, and ultimately provides us a pause of sort to be able to really rethink of what our visions for our laboratories are. Where are we looking? And what that means is it's an opportunity to really reflect and see where things have perhaps gone wrong or not to your satisfaction, and how do you pivot and become nimble and strategize with what your laboratory will look like in the future when we are opening or reopening or fully at capacity. So, you know, it's an opportunity of sort, and certainly there's a great opportunity and advantage for dental laboratories that are digitized and perhaps are not doing digital dentures. It's another yet business opportunity to develop this new space, and I'll share with you in a little bit what that space is and how large it is and what an opportunity it is, but develop that space to optimize your laboratory to reach the best amount of revenue. So with that said, without all of this, where technology is the focal point. So where is technology taking us? And this is a quote that I like to always start with. It's something that makes you ponder and think, because oftentimes the way technology behaves with us is not to the optimal ability. So it's a mindset, it's a mind flow, but it's not what technology does to us, it's what we do with the technology. So being able to get smart with technology and choose wisely and use it in a way that benefits both you and those around you. So those around you are certainly not only the laboratory, your technicians, your clients, and ultimately what's most important is the patient. There's a significant advantages with digital dentures for the patient ultimately, as well as the clinician, your dentist clients, which we'll talk about. But it's ultimately your choice, and what kind of technology you decide to employ is going to be up to your laboratory, your due diligence, which we're going to break down nicely in this webinar. But what works for your laboratory? Not every laboratory is alike, and nor should it be, because your clients have grown to expect the quality and the work from your laboratory, and that should remain the same, if not even become better. However, being able to deliver that with an easier way through technology, or develop that in the same quality and the same service that your laboratory has provided for your clientele, should continue in the same way. So, you know, it's all about a choice. It's all about a mindset, and we can certainly use technology where the caricature on the left is, as you can see, the technology becomes a burden. We don't want that in a laboratory. We want to think smart. We want to think ahead and do our diligence and really play around with the different types of approaches you can do, specifically in this case with digital dentures. You want to be more like the fellas on the right-hand side, where the technology that you've purchased or you've invested in is able to bring you to a level significantly greater than what you've accomplished now in your laboratory. And that is all around us. And certainly, as I said, we've seen this with the pandemic. We are connected more than ever now. We are seeing things more than ever. The technology is making things efficiently, and certainly more efficient for that matter, and being able to do that productively quickly in the process. But that leaves a lot of dental professionals, and some, like we are here in the webinar, that are confused by all the information on CADCAM. But what is relevant for them? This is a decision for your laboratory, but are you unsure? Are you puzzled? When, where, what? You know, this is a position that unfortunately oftentimes forces people to not make a decision, which in essence is a decision. Not making a decision is making a decision that you're not going to proceed forward. And in this particular time with what we're experiencing with digital technology, that may not be the best strategy for your laboratory. And looking ahead and creating and making that decision would produce that outcome that you're looking for. So where do you start? What kind of CAD and what kind of scanning, what kind of milling machine, what kind of printer, what kind of, there's so many different things. And, you know, we'll develop this in this webinar and show you the different options, and then certainly develop what works for you in your laboratory. I'm a big believer of knowledge is power, and knowledge shared is power multiplied. And to me, that is the key to success. And that's why we're all here in the webinar. So once again, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. But let's talk about CAD-CAM first and the benefits. I have to emphasize that, and we're seeing this more and more in digital dentures, but CAD-CAM is what provides us an incredible tool. It's the dental intelligence that is required to manufacture a viable restoration. So certainly it's the what I call dental intelligence, which is the years of experience, the years of education, the years of hard knocks, that we've learned what works in the mouth, what is viable in the mouth, and what will fail ultimately in the mouth. And we've certainly seen that, and no technology and no machine can really provide that other than yourself and what you've done over the years. It can certainly provide efficiency, it can certainly provide precision. The level of complexity with the way we are manufacturing is certainly there. And the biggest and the greatest benefit of this, as far as I'm concerned, is consistency and data acquisition. You're able to provide that to your dentists and your clients and your patients ultimately, but you're able to provide that with a level of anxiety that is significantly lessened than it was in an analog. Because theoretically, once you dial in all these components and all this technology, what happens ultimately is that you get it to the point where it manufactures in the same exact way consistently. That doesn't mean that it's a cookie cutter, okay? Technology shouldn't be faced with just what comes out of CAD and what comes out of manufacturing is all the same. And that's where I refer back to the fact that it's a powerful tool, because it's a dental intelligence. So what you've done in the past for your clients is what they've come to expect from your laboratory. That should not change. It's just a tool. So whether you're using a spatula or you're using a mouse, the end results should be the same because it comes from your years of experience and your ability to do that. Now with digital dentures, a lot of laboratories that predominantly were in the fixed arena that have all the technology and have all the equipment to just be able to transition to digital dentures, I think it's a great opportunity for those individuals, because you're able to, the investment is significantly less, the learning curve is significantly less. And when I say that significantly less, there's still going to be a learning curve. You're still going to have to understand the fundamentals of creating or manufacturing dentures. However, 75% of the dental intelligence is already acquired by the laboratory. So why do I say that? Certainly removable laboratories should absolutely engage in digital dentures. And certainly wholeheartedly, I feel that fixed laboratories should engage as well with digital dentures. That's opportunities of greater revenue. You have the equipment, you have a lot of what needs. You may need to purchase some peripheral things in order to manufacture a viable digital denture, but that's a shorter learning curve, and being able to produce that and create revenue for laboratories will create a significant to your bottom line. So with that said, and opportunities, as I promised you, digital dentures are quickly becoming the fastest developing market, as seen in 2019 and 2020, with the denture market projected to be a $3.6 billion market by 2020. That is certainly, and that is on the clinical side, certainly, and I'll share with you on the laboratory side in a second, but that is a piece of market that certainly every laboratory should be looking at eagerly to see how they can capture that revenue and that ability to deliver that product and service to their dentist clients. There's also several manufacturers, and we'll talk about different ones of what they've deployed with their digital denture solutions. There's different ways of approaching digital dentures. And certainly your laboratory, and that's where the due diligence for you to really be able to take a look at what are those solutions and what fits best within your workflow in your laboratory and how you can produce it consistently and efficiently every single time. For the laboratory market, it is a curve going up, and the 3D prosthetics is expected to account higher share in dental CAD/CAM and dental prosthetic market. So that's where digital dentures fall in. And certainly digital dentures is not just for the denture market. Digital dentures also fall within the implant market as well, the bars and so on. So removable prosthetics is encompassing all within digital dentures, and the technology is there. But it has a growth rate of close to 6% year after year by 2026, which is significant. And who are our patients? Our patients are our grandparents, our uncle, our aunt, our sister, our mother, our brother, and so on. These are patients that ultimately what we're trying to achieve in a great way is provide them a higher level of service and higher level of a product. And that in essence, digital dentures is the peripheral, the ancillary function where we can shorten appointment times, and I'll share with you in a second how that's possible, meaning that dental patients have to see the dentist less to receive their denture. But what's nice with digital is that you can always save that denture or that information. So the laboratory or the dentist, whoever decides to store the file, can always reproduce that denture. Where in an analog form, if the denture breaks or the dog ate the denture or whatever have you, the patient would go back to the clinician, and now it would prompt them to do a brand new impression, and the process starts from scratch. With digital denture, you already have a lot of that information. So it may require you to produce a monochrome type of denture where the clinician will then take a new impression should there need to be a reline if it's an older case. If it's a newer case, you can just go ahead and remanufacture it with the old file and then still reline it if necessary. But there's opportunities and creative opportunities that shorten the laboratory's input as far as manpower as well as the workflow. So it provides a better service of sort, and being able to provide that in a quick and easy way for the patient and for the clinician is a significant benefit. Patients typically, especially when it comes to digital dentures, they get to the point because they're not, there's a lot of folks that are dental phobes, that are scared of dental offices and perhaps hygiene and so on. This provides yet another opportunity for your clinician to offer that by shortening the appointments and being able to provide a digital denture in a consistent way. Currently, there are estimated 40 million people in the US that are wearing dentures, which correlates to a $240 billion lab market with a $1.1 trillion dental market. Now, that is a significant market that if we just share a little bit of that space, every laboratory deploying digital dentures can certainly benefit from it in a big way. With looking at, again, focusing at the patients, now you have the optional CAD/CAM denture workflow that can significantly shorten the appointment times and frequency, which then correlates to the laboratory workflow. That in and of itself, digital will save a lot of time in Messenger and so on and so forth, but even having less of the time required for your staff to be able to in an analog set of teeth and be able to process it and so on, you're able to shorten that quite a bit. So in here, this is a layout of a 4 appointment, which you can see the opportunity to even shorten it by 1 more. So a dentist typically will take either a preliminary impression of the edentulous area and send to the laboratory, where we can do a bi-block lower of upper and try-in. Then it would go back to the clinician where they would do a try-in block and use that custom tray for a new impression. A way to shorten that is by actually, from the impression material, be able to skip into the try-in where you can do a monochrome denture, which I'll show you in a second how that's processed. And then it just switches out to a tooth colored with pink tissue with the denture base quickly and easily. So the opportunity to be able to seat the final denture quicker and shorter for the patient also benefits the dentist in a big way, because now you've alleviated multiple appointments for the dentist, which then offers them an opportunity to be able to see more patients and then therefore create greater revenue. Also for the laboratory, as I mentioned, it's less steps that need to go back and forth, and therefore, just productivity-wise, it becomes a more profitable opportunity by offering digital dentures. The patient in and of itself, the experience with digital, provides a significant better opportunity. As you see here, to the left, you see that the traditional impression, this is what patients oftentimes think of when they think of the dental office. They think that they're going to get this goop that's going to go down their throat, they're going to gag. This is something that oftentimes avoids patients from going to the dentist. And certainly digital impression technique, as you see on the right-hand side from ThreeShape with the trios, eliminates that. It also provides your dentist with the opportunity to look more sophisticated with their technology, and it eases for patients that have any kind of anxieties. Look at this opportunity, and it's a different experience than what they've envisioned. And with dental folks, it even allows you the ability to tell them if they get nervous or they get anxious, you can stop scanning, or the dentist can stop scanning, where on the traditional side, you cannot remove that impression tray until it has fully set, and which could be anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes, which could be for a while for some patients. So the overall experience is significantly easier for patients, for dental patients, that is. So, and it offers a greater versatility. Now, speaking about CAD design, there are different CAD designs that I'll go over in a second. You see, you're able to break it down into various ways, meaning you can do a denture base at a material, which we'll discuss in the manufacturing process, and the teeth separate. You can in the order form, you can select on ThreeShape whether you want it in quadrants, you want it as a full arch that you're going to then bond together. You can even use carded teeth depending on the type of solution that you're looking for. So with carded teeth, and again, I'll explain that as we go further, but with carded teeth, you can buy where it's a library on ThreeShape, which I'll explain also once we do. I have a video of a design from a master dental technician, a friend of mine, that you can see exactly how they've designed, and you can decide whether you want to use carded teeth, which has the solution, and I'll explain that in a second, or you can decide to mill teeth and mill the base. You can decide to print one or the other, or you can actually do a combination of both depending on what kind of equipment you have in your laboratory. So the versatility is certainly there. You can do all these type of different restorations and different digital dentures. It's just a different approach. The end result will still provide you with a digital denture, a very nice aesthetic digital denture, which I'll show you a case from John McMillan a little bit later on. But it provides you the opportunity to create the digital denture in a way that's comfortable in your work and that fits your workflow and generates a revenue stream that perhaps is untapped at the moment. So the two key criterias in ThreeShape is obviously the order form. Everything initiates from the order form. For ThreeShape users, you're all comfortable with the order form, but being able to select the appropriate type of materials as well as the type, as I show here on the right-hand side. So the first thing you want to do is you want to highlight the cross arch, and then you want to select the artificial teeth. This is a kind of a standard format of how to set up a within the ThreeShape solution. Then you can go down into the gingiva and select the denture base. That's going to be your selection. Now, there's an opportunity there, and I'll go back to this in a second, but there's also an opportunity with ThreeShape to be able to take a scan. So if a dentist calls a laboratory and says that patient Mrs. Jones really likes their denture, is there any way we can duplicate that? The answer is yes. You can actually scan, and you have it here, the very end one, which is the copy scan to reproduce. It will actually copy the denture, the existing denture, and provide you with the ability of generating a new denture with the same bite, with the same look, with the same aesthetic, with the same everything that Mrs. Jones has over the years have grown to expect. What's nice is when you select denture base, you would then go into what the plus green sign over here, where you have types and selections. And this is important because what this will do when you select the order form, this will then create either a single file, which would mean that it would be a monoblock rather, where you have the teeth and the denture base all in the same material. So you're not going to have, which is typically the tooth color, but you're not going to have the pink gingiva and these are typically started off with for try-ins. However, some people, which, you know, that's an approach that you wish to take. Some people use the monoblock material, which they can either print or mill, and then put some composite gingiva to create the aesthetic look of a denture base. And then down here, you can see that you have three other choices. You have base with artificial teeth, which is the carded teeth, which means that you'll be able to design the library now is going to be a locked library. So you can't manipulate the sizes of the teeth because obviously they have to correspond to the carded teeth, which will allow you to then seamlessly be able to place it into the denture base. But it provides you with the opportunity to now not have to manufacture or not print or mill the actual tooth, and you have different, you know, there's different conversations as to what is stronger, what is more viable, what is more aesthetic. I'll leave that to you to decide, but the options are certainly there. Then you have the basal with artificial teeth, and that's just being able to, it will provide you where the monoblock gives you one file that you can then mill or print. This gives you two files where it actually separates the denture base and separates the tooth portion of the denture. And as I said before, you can select in the software whether you want a quadrant, where it would be the anterior section, the left posterior, the right posterior, or you can actually do the whole arch and then glue them together. Again, there are different approaches, and you really have to find where you would be the most comfortable with, as well as the base with design teeth. So you have different opportunities and different ways of accomplishing, and this is important because what I want to emphasize here, and this is in the order form, is that there are different approaches that you need to be aware of. There are different ways of producing a digital denture, and they're all good ways. It's just a matter of what fits and what works in your with your workflow. Now, with the monoblock, I've had, from speaking to so many different folks, I was very interested to learn that with the monoblock, some people love it because it's a one piece and it's easy. However, some clinicians are not a fan of that, only because it doesn't give the patient, upon trying, the real ability to assess what is the denture would look like. And yes, it's the clinician would have to then explain to that patient what it would look like, that the pink would look like pink, and the gingiva would look like gingiva, and so on and so forth. So some opt to do the base with design teeth, which gives you a better feature and a better try-in. Others love the monoblock because there's less movement and less, you know, it's a one-shot kind of mill or print. But again, this is really dependent on your workflow and your approach in completing digital dentures. But all of them are really very good and versatile examples. So here I have an example of a friend of mine, Rami Aburan from Dubai, designed a case really quick. And what this is a monoblock case. So as you can see, he's doing an upper and a lower. He's first selected the artificial teeth, as well as then decided to do the monoblock in a digital denture. First thing, once you scan your case, as well as your bite blocks, you first have to appropriate the exact the occlusal planes, because, and this is important to make sure that the occlusal planes are correct, because that's how the teeth are going to set. Then you're going to have to identify where are the tuberosities, where are the retromolar pads. The difference between the number one and the number two, there really isn't a difference. The software will still recognize one or the other. The only thing is that if you're doing a retromolar buccal one, you just want to make sure that the lingual buccal one is associated with the right where you've assigned for the first a ripped roller pad or whatever have you, whether it's a left or right. So those two have to correlate. Then it will take you into creating the boundaries and the boundary points. And this is where, you know, some experience and know-how with dentures will provide you with the better of the end results. Again, the software can do some remarkable things, but it will not replace the dental intelligence, what I call with the dental technicians. So being able to go down to the vestibule in order to get proper suction, designing all around, you can. Now with the borders, you can, I quickly, as Rami has, placed it in a way where I can then right click and go into fast spline edit mode, which then I can actually draw in the process. So by doing so, you've now assigned where you want your peripherals. Now you have an opportunity later on to go back and change it should you wish to, but it's a quick, and the better, I find that the better you identify that in the beginning stages, the easier the process will be. What was just shown before is blocking out any kind of wax, which the software allows you to do that. So if there's any undercuts or any engaging areas that you don't wish the denture to engage, that's going to be where you want to block it out. Now here it provides you a libraries. Now libraries, ThreeShape comes with a few libraries that are local and are free, and you can certainly select those. There's several of them. There are also libraries that are for purchase as well. So you can, in essence, select any kind of library you wish for aesthetics. And again, it shouldn't be cookie cutter. Every laboratory has their own workflow and their own method. Here's where you can always change that assignment in that block. Now, this is going to be a monochrome, so you're not changing a lot of the teeth themselves, but you want to place it in the arch form. Something very unique that's coming up, and I'm excited in 2020, is the ability to change the gingiva aesthetics, which was not available, and in 2020 is available as of May. So depends on the reseller and who can activate it. So reach out to your reseller. But there are different ways of contouring the gingiva. So you can see here, there's anything from a very subtle to a very detailed and very rich gingiva, which depends on your laboratory and depends on what your clinicians like. You can really see where what the aesthetic value is, and I'll be able to show you some pictures of what that really characterized denture can produce. So depending on the laboratory that you run and depending on the workflow that you have, you can see that it's very versatile and completely open and allows you to design and produce and manufacture the same quality and consistency and aesthetics that you've generated for your clinicians and your dentists throughout. Here is where it was blocked out. You have to obviously make sure to alleviate any of the muscles, be able to go down into the vestibule, clear that frenum. You can also, in the library itself, you can manipulate the teeth in the process. You can make them wider, you can make them longer, you can make them shallower, you can move them cross arch. Just keep in mind when you're designing in such a way, if you're printing or milling the teeth form, you can absolutely make so many changes and really change the dimension and the shape of everything. If you're using carded teeth, those libraries are going to be locked. So, which obviously makes sense because now you're able to use carded teeth and place them into, either glue them in or place them into the intaglio side. So you can't make them, but with carded teeth, just like with regular dentures, you have an assortment of different cards, different sizes, different shapes, and the dentist will typically select that as well. If you're doing, and oftentimes I suggest, just to get an idea, even when you're milling or printing, which we'll get to in a second, teeth, you just want to get the understanding and the approval of the dentist as well as the patient as to what is the aesthetic outcome. As you've seen before with the there's a snagit type of where I can always capture this design and shoot it off to the dentist, and everything is in an email, everything is remote. And I actually suggest doing this, especially if you're starting out with digital dentures, is just take a picture of what the denture will look like. Send it to the dentist for approval before committing to manufacturing. It may save some opportunities, and the dentist oftentimes may want to change, make the distal a little rounder or whatever have you. I've even done, quite honestly, with some dentists that really require some significant aesthetics, where we've done team viewer appointments, where they're able to, in live moment with me on the computer, be able to share, can you twist the lateral a little bit distally and make it more, with their instructions of what the end result could be. You could have a conversation, and perhaps, depending on your clientele, what they're looking for, if you're very aesthetic conscious clientele, it may behoove you to spend 10 minutes with them on TeamViewer to really be able to hone in the design to exactly the way they want to see it, and then you can manufacture it in the different ways that we'll discuss in a second. But it's important to get the buy-in and approval of the dentist and significantly the patient as well, oftentimes. So rather than sending this, which after manufacturing, you should absolutely send it just to make sure that the bite is correct and the design is correct, but aesthetically, you're already ahead of the game because you've already worked all that out with the dentist. Whether they want a more characterized gingiva, whether they want more root prominence, whether they want to distalize certain things, whether they want to flare certain things. I mean, that's an opportunity to do this on the digital design, and it's a matter of 3-5 seconds to be able to manipulate that for the dentist. And team viewer appointments really go a long way because it's live and they can see it. And if they're sophisticated enough to know how to use CAD, they can make those changes themselves very quickly and easily. So it's a great process, it's a great workflow, and it alleviates any of the needs for changes going forward. So, as I promised, there are different ways of manufacturing digital dentures, which we'll get into now. There is the milled as well as the 3D printed options. And what are those? You can manufacture a denture base with teeth. So with milled or printed, you can mill either the denture base or you can mill the teeth and then bond them together. 3D printing, much the same. You can 3D print a denture base and you can 3D print teeth and then bond them together. And as I said, there is the carded version. Some, depending on material choices, because there's a lot of conversations about materials and what some feel that some are more aesthetic, some are more lifelike. I have a lot of colleagues that are milling teeth while printing a denture base. They feel that that is the best of both worlds. Again, it all comes from a single CAD file, so putting them together becomes, very easy. And there's some parameters that you have to just adhere to in the CAD design, but you can, in essence, whatever your vision is and whatever your perspective is, you can look at what is the best end result and marry the two. So as I said in the very beginning, yes, it is digital dentures, but the way to approach it could be very, very lab specific. And in fact, I say that it should be lab specific because your clients have grown to expect the aesthetic and consistency from your laboratory. The ability and you adding digital dentures should not change that because it's the dental intelligence what they're coming to your laboratory for. It's the service and the knowledge that you're able to provide to your clinician, which is deeming their success. And that should not change. It's just the technology to allow you to offer digital dentures or offer a revenue stream to your doctors as well as the laboratory that perhaps you haven't before. So don't think of technology in any way that replaces what a dental technician or a dental knowledge or a laboratory for that matter or a dental technician. It's rather enhances the dental technician in the process because it provides you with different tools as well as different materials to achieve that end result. Now, you have several combinations of, as I said, in the milled and 3D printing, but as you see here, you can mill and print, which we'll discuss different products and different protocols, similar to here, and this could be either milled or printed, and I'll show you samples of both. And then you just glue them together. This is obviously a full arch, but you have the ability of also doing a monochrome, which a lot favor, and this is where you have in the picture down here. And you can see this is, again, could be either 3D printed or milled, depending on what approach you want to take and what kind of material you feel confident for your laboratory. But oftentimes these monochrome are utilized in diverse ways, in different ways. So what I hear most is that people use these for try-ins because it's a quicker workflow, and then convert that into what you see, whether it's milled or 3D printed. As I said, some people even cut back a little bit on the buckle aspects and or layer some composite in order to make the pink and keep it in the monochrome, because they feel that it is, being that it's made out of the same material and within one manufacturing process, there are some people that feel that it is a stronger denture than perhaps two pieces glued together. Others would argue, and I kind of subscribe to a little bit of both, where they're utilizing polymers, which are resins, in order to put together, and then they're using resin like your resin in order to lute them together, so they're as significantly strong. It's really the due diligence of the laboratory and what you believe and what you've learned and what you feel confident in the material. The approach, there are several of them. What it is that you want to see and what it is that you feel comfortable putting your name behind is what the end result. But the options are plentiful. And then there's always the opportunity to outsource as well, to get into digital dentures, which may very well be something for your laboratory as well, where you want to dip your feet into digital dentures and then be able to complete the process. Obviously, with outsourcing, your control is significantly limited, where if you have the equipment and you have either milling or 3D printing or both, you can deploy a lot of that, and there's a significantly shorter learning curve than what would perhaps be in the past. So as I shared with you, you can mill, you can print, and here you can see this is the different within milling, and there are different results and different things that come of it. So on the ancillary or the peripherals, you'll see that these are all milled, and in the middle, these are 3D printed. Some would argue that different materials provide different characteristics, and I would agree. So depending on your partner and your vendor of what kind of material you want to use, it's an opportunity there. And there are so many now vendors and manufacturers that are looking at these as a viable, because of that market space and opportunity that I shared with you earlier. And laboratories are getting more and more options in how to do that. Again, this webinar is more to kind of illustrate that there are so many different ways of achieving the end result in the digital denture. The opportunities are plentiful. It's up to you to decide what works for your laboratory, whether it's existing or in the future, and what works for your clientele. And that could mean a slew of things with materials as well as workflow as well as protocols. But there are different options and different approaches. So try to see which ones work best for you. With 3D printing, there's a great opportunity, and EnvisionTech has really come up with a very unique and fast, and I'll share with you in a little bit something that they've shared with me, the ability to create with DLP, with a build platform, very quickly and very fast. Similarly with Formlabs, they have a digital denture solution as well, which provides good solutions. And again, the materials is where some folks perhaps would have some conversations about. But with EnvisionTech, they have a proprietary continuous digital light manufacturing that really creates a very quick print. In fact, a lot of things with printing is significantly faster in throughput than it is in milling, and I'll share with you in a second why. But here you can have as you see up here, a print plate that can produce 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, about 10 denture bases. And here you have the different solutions or different resins that can be produced, everything from a bleach or a V2B1 all the way to even an A4 that you can print. Now, obviously, you have to print them in different batches because the resin is one of the same. But if you have either two printers, which is quite honestly ideal, where you can print the denture bases while printing the teeth in an assortment, but the opportunities are there, and this is what you end up getting, which is a digital denture. Obviously, in VisionTech also is you're able to print models as well as partial dentures in the resin in order to be casted. So depending on what you have in your laboratory and what you're looking to deploy is what's going to give you the better of the results. Now here's a case that was shared to me from VisionTech, which Valerie Cooper McMillan as well as John McMillan constructed, and they've 3D printed, and this is the results. What's astounding is that what they reported, the cost of the printed denture was at $7.50. And again, that's just the cost of material, but nonetheless, it provides an opportunity for laboratories to offer a premium denture, a premium product, as you see here. Yes, it requires some characteristics, it requires some dental intelligence that is you know, but again, it's what your dentists have grown to expect, and that should not change. If you're more on the production side and perhaps not as characterized and things like that, the opportunity is there with digital dentures. If you're more on the aesthetic conscious and that's your kind of niche opportunities and clientele, the opportunity is there. This is just a tool. This is just material. It should not limit or do things that you're unable to do. So whatever your clients in your laboratory is known for and produces, you're now able to produce it very easily and quickly, rather, and inexpensively at $7.50. And I would venture to say that, you know, with Composite and GC Gradia and knowing John, that number is perhaps, you know, is a great number, and some laboratories may even be able to get it at a little bit less. So now the conversation is with 3D printing and milling is an important one, because you have different polarized perspective. As I said, a lot of my colleagues oftentimes and sometimes are printing one component and then milling the other, or perhaps doing one of the same in the other. And that's really a choice in your workflow in your laboratory. But it's really when I ask folks and when I do my research, a lot of times it's really material driven and what you're comfortable with. The technology is there. The ability of doing digital dentures is there, and it has surpassed, and it's actually remarkable and outstanding. It's the materials that some people feel more comfortable than others in certain lights. So what does that mean for you, and how does that, you know, you may feel that a milled denture base is stronger than a printed one. Others may argue. Some may feel that a printed teeth is not as strong as milled teeth. And again, there are plenty of studies out there that contradict one another. It's really a due diligence on the laboratory to see, and it's what you're most comfortable with. All those materials are all FDA approved. All those materials have all been validated, and it's what you feel most comfortable with. So with milling and milling machines is what the considerations are. And depending on how much you're doing in digital dentures, and quite candidly, milling requires quite a bit of timing. And timing is not, you know, it's a derivative of the CAM software and the ability of being able to complete that quickly. But, you know, you may be able to mill a denture base in a little, around an hour's mark. Some are a little bit longer. And then the teeth, where you can 3D print the denture base and the teeth in perhaps 20 minutes for each cycle. So it really depends on what your laboratory and your protocols and your workforce of what is deployed, because ideally, if you're making an investment in technology, you want that technology to scale and run 24 hours a day. There's nothing better than, and I think every dental technician's dream, or any business owner's dream, is to be able to make money while you're sleeping, or while you're not engaged, or while you're not in the laboratory or running the business, having this technology run that business. And there are different opportunities, and again, it's different business models, but I've met, you know, I've spoken with a gentleman that had a laboratory that purchased a multi-disc changer and sang its praises, and he's doing mainly just digital dentures, where he's designing, and all day that milling machine is running, and then before he goes home for the night, he loads up 10 discs and loads up whatever he needs, the CAM, and it runs all night, where he comes in the morning and things are prepared for him to continue to work and produce more. So it's really depending on the laboratory and what is your workforce. Now, one thing I want to mention, and certainly these are all different types of milling machines. So if you have one, you can deploy this material. You have the Amman gearbox, which is on the right-hand side. You have the VHF, you have the Roland, as well as the Iams I-Core. One thing with milling, and especially with digital dentures, that I just want to point out and identify is you want to, if you're going to be milling, it's ideal or more beneficial to have a ionizer in the mill. And here you can see, hopefully my mouse, with the VHF, which has the ionizer, you can notice after milling a denture puck how clean it is as compared to a milling machine that is not clean. And this is just starter roughing. So it's the little acrylic, PMMA that is utilized. Now, some do it in wet, others, but the ionizer in dry is ideal, because what you don't want to do is end up getting all this debris all throughout your milling machine and perhaps creating some maintenance issues that you weren't prepared for. So the opportunity is there. The decision is really yours, but whether you're milling or whether you're 3D printing or doing both, you can absolutely achieve a great return on your investment, enhanced return on your investment, and ultimately you'll be the hero that is creating another revenue stream for your clinician and for your laboratory, quite randomly. If you're outsourcing a lot of your dentures, you can bring that into your laboratories, because most of you already have a lot of the digital technologies that is required to produce that. So the benefits are really there. One thing I just want to mention as far as materials, Keystone produces a really, really nice denture base, which is the Diamond D, which is the same acrylic that is utilized in packing, but now they've digitized it by creating it a puck. And these are some of the samples that they've provided, and certainly VHF is one of the has been validated by a VHF milling machine, so that, and which has an ionizer. And what I found in testing this material is that it's absolutely remarkable. And again, I've tested it with VHF, that it produces a very smooth finish where there's very little post-processing that needs to be done to the denture base afterwards. So if perhaps you're using a solution where you're using carded teeth and a denture base, again, as long as you select that in the order form, it provides you with an avenue to buy carded teeth, buy the Keystone key mill, that you can actually place those carded teeth into the position as you see here, and then loop them in, as well as the removable dentures. Now, removable dentures is something that oftentimes is forgotten in digital dentures and dentures in general. But I just absolutely love this module in ThreeShape, because it moves away from the chrome cobalt. Now, if you have clinicians that still like the chrome cobalt, you can certainly 3D print wax, as you see here, or even resin. But there's plentiful opportunities, and again, for laboratories that are not offering these services and products to dentists, I think you're missing out on something great, because the acetal has several opportunities, and as you see here, which is a non-metallic option, which here is the tooth color. They also have the pink, which really disappears in the mouth, and if you really want to see something that disappears in the mouth, they have the VisiClear, which is the clear. Patients, from the feedback that I've gotten, patients absolutely love this. A lot of patients oftentimes don't like the unsightliness of the chrome cobalt. You're able to do this similar design as you do with the chrome cobalt. Obviously, these things need to be beefed up a little bit more, meaning the clasps as well as the thickness than in chrome cobalt, which is all designed in ThreeShape, as you see up here. But you're able to provide that to a patient. It is incredibly light. It is incredibly, just blends beautifully in the mouth, and patients tend to forget, which is ironically a comment that I've gotten oftentimes with the VisiClear. The patients just forget to remove it, which is not a good thing, but it's a good testament to the material, that it disappears really well in the mouth. It doesn't give the metallic taste that patients sometimes dislike. Clasping becomes a lot easier. You can either do tooth color clasping or clear clasping. Again, with all this I wanted to share the opportunity that is available. So if you're a removable laboratories, certainly digitizing will create a more efficient and a more profitable opportunity to scale your production. If you're a predominantly fixed laboratory, this offers an opportunity to get into removable. Certainly there's going to be a learning curve, but you're able to create products and services to your existing clientele that perhaps haven't been had before. And as you are well aware, a lot of dentists typically have a 2.4% laboratories that they use. And these are some products that perhaps are not sent to your laboratory only because they don't think you perform these services and these products. So by capturing this, by having your clientele, you can significantly grow your existing business now with perhaps equipment that you already have, or a small investment in being able to acquire and do these type of restorative options for patients that otherwise you would not have had. So with that said, which is, I see we're perfectly on time, I just wanted to thank everybody. As you ventured through this, and hopefully I was able to explain the differences and the different approaches in demystifying digital dentures. The end result is an aesthetic digital denture. It's how you choose to approach it, what is your workflow, and what materials you feel confident in will dictate to what is the best revenue and what is the best product that you can then provide for your dentist clientele and perhaps acquire some more dental clientele. So I want to say thank you. I wish everybody nothing but the best of health, safe, and success in coming out of this unfortunate pandemic crisis. And I'm with you all. So thank you. And with that now, Caitlin, if there are any questions, I'd be very happy to answer.
Great. Thank you so much, Daniel. That was an awesome presentation. We only had one question come in, so clearly you covered everything in detail this afternoon. So the question that we have here is from Raymond, who asks, what is the material of clear partial?
So it's VisiClear, it's by Acetal. And Zahn does support that and sell it as well. But it's the clear material is the same as with Acetal, it's called VisiClear, and it's a clear product. So you're able to mill the partial with it. What's really nice is they also have the ability of, in any of those products, whether it was pink or tooth color, there's a way, it's called a hot shot or hot gun, one of the two, that you're able to repair. So if you're doing a partial denture and perhaps the patient's wearing it for 2 years and has lost a tooth or broke a clasp or anything like that, it's repairable. You don't have to start from scratch. You do have to buy the hot shot or hot gun, I forget what it's called, but you can add. Now, I've also had some technicians that I've spoken with that have done the pink or the tooth color and then did the clasp in either clear or the tooth color, depending on what, where the lip line is and how high the smile is and so on and so forth for clasping. So it provides you with options, and the clear is one of those that really stands out, and patients have really loved and have asked for it. In fact, really complimented how well it feels in their mouth and just disappears, which is what we really want. We want to restore them without intruding on what their function and what their comfort is.
Okay, we actually are having a couple more questions trickling right here at the end. So the next one is, how long does it take for the whole process?
So it depends, and don't you love when people answer with depends? Depends on the workflow. If you're milling, it's going to take a little bit longer, only because it takes the strategy for the milling and the tooling takes a little bit longer. If you're printing, you can batch a more. So if you look at each individual one, design-wise, for a full denture, once you feel comfortable and you're moving through it, it should take no more than about 15 to 20 minutes. And then depending on how you manufacture it. So theoretically, I mean, if push comes to shove and you're printing, you can have probably within an hour to an hour and a half a completed digital denture one arch. But typically the laboratories don't perform in that they design and then they batch and then they print perhaps 8 or 10 denture bases in the process. So hopefully that answered that question.
Got it. Okay, thanks, Daniel. And then we have 2 questions here from James. The first one being, how strong are those clear partials? Are you able to add on to them for repair if needed?
Yes, so that's a great question. Thank you. So you do need to go significantly thicker than what is perhaps a chrome cobalt, especially in the clasping and any of the areas that are pinching. But you know, perhaps a 0.6 millimeter or even a little bit more. Again, realize that it's a plastic, so the patient feels it less. So it's not as thin as a chrome cobalt, but it's certainly thicker. You do have to worry about any of the reciprocating arms or anything that may flex is where you want to beef it up a little bit so it has more of that. It is slightly flexible, but you don't want it to flex too much where it would break. As I said, in the event that it does break or in the event that you do need to fix it, there are opportunities with the hot shot or hot gun. I apologize for not remembering the exact name, but you could fix, you can add clasps, you can do different things with it in order to enhance whatever you need.
Perfect. And can you recommend a mill for a small laboratory?
Yes, well, again, I hate answering with depends. Depends what the production you're doing. I like very much, you know, VHF is a great mill. It's German made. The spindle is incredible. You know, it's very hard. It's great on hard materials. So if you're doing any of the harder materials, any of the chrome, any of the titanium or anything like that, the VHF is definitely. I also like the fact that a lot of all their mills have ionizers, as I said earlier, with PMMA or any of those. It's easier or to clean, and some of those mills have self-cleaning features. The other mills, Amon Gearbach, Rolling, they're all good. It just depends on what it is that you're trying to achieve. If you're doing a lot of zirconia, you may want a different mill. If you're doing harder materials, if you're doing a lot of polymers, you know, there are so many different options. And again, it depends on the material and what you're producing more. So it's more of a function of a conversation of what it is that you want to, that your laboratory currently produces, what you're hoping it will produce, and what kind of products you're looking to do. And then you kind of back into what is the best solution. The nice thing is that a lot of these solutions are all robust and are good and can get you to the end zone. And obviously, your investment power is also, you know, a variable in this.
Okay. Thanks for that, Daniel. Okay, we're going to do the last two questions here because we are close to time. The next one is, what approach gives the highest strength on the denture base on teeth, printed or milled?
That's an excellent question. I can tell you that from the studies that I've seen, as far as hardness and the material, milled seems to be outweighing the printed. However, I can also tell you from things that I've heard and seen that the amount of energy and focus on 3D printing materials, that we are very close to being very comparable, if not even better. There are some products that make some claims to having like a you know, a strengthening of sort, but there's right now the studies that I've seen is that the milled material, which is homogeneously packed, tends to be harder, but I wouldn't be surprised if the same question was asked in a year from now, that it will be quite the opposite. 3D printing materials may be stronger.
Great, thanks, Daniel. And this is going to be the last question. How do you scan bite relationship with wax rims?
Ask that again, I'm sorry.
How do you scan bite relationship with wax rims?
So that's, you know, the dentist, when you do a wax rim, they would still have to do everything they've done in an analog if you're going the wax rim, and then they're establishing your centric relation, obviously your canine guidance, your midline, and then all that gets scanned. So when you're scanning the upper member, the maxilla, and the lower member, the mandible, and then if you're doing two dentures, and then as a bite, you're doing the wax rims. Then, as you've seen in the demonstration of design, what you have to do is you have to align your bite. So that's going to align where You want to align that with the midline, the cuspid, as well as you want to do with, if it's a class 1, you want to bring it right to the edge, because in bite rims, you obviously are concerned with lip support and concerned with other things that you want to capture, and that's where you align it in the software. So you want to bring that, if you recall that circle with the ghosted teeth, almost, or silhouettes of teeth, and you want to bring it to where you're aligning it not only horizontally, vertically, but also with the midline to capture that.